Why is this one prayer so feared by the devil that it was once removed from the holy sacrifice of the Mass? Welcome back to the Latin Prayer Podcast. If you've been following along, you know that we've already done 2 episodes on the pronunciation and translation of the Saint Michael the Archangel prayer. And it was basically done to help you learn how to just say it properly, not really understand its meaning. But today we're going to go even deeper. This is the first time we're going to be doing a Latin learning guide for this powerful prayer, which means that we're going to break it down word by word, not just translating it, but really understanding what each word means, especially the more complicated ones. We'll explore how the Latin words are connected to English, making it easier to remember and internalize the prayer. So why was this prayer removed from the Mass? Well, for decades, the Saint Michael prayer was prayed at the end of Low Mass, a practice introduced by, of course, Pope Leo XIII, one of our favorites, after a vision that he had had of a great battle between the Church and the forces of darkness. It was meant to be a powerful defense against the attacks of the enemy, penned by him on our behalf. But in 1964, as part of the liturgical changes leading up to the introduction of the Novus Ordo, the practice was quietly dropped, and in many circles it caused quite an outrage. But even though that happened, many Catholics today still recite it after the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass, recognizing its continued importance in spiritual warfare. And I would encourage you, at the end of your Mass, if you attend a Novus Ordo, if this isn't a practice that's being adopted, start this practice first with your family, share it with friends, and then introduce this prayer into various other aspects of your prayer life, perhaps at the end of your daily rosary, as my family has adopted. We also see that St. Michael's role in the Church throughout history, his appearance numerous times at Monte Gargano in Italy. If you've never been, I highly encourage you to go and visit. His role as the defender of heaven, and why he is invoked as a powerful protection against the devil and spiritual battles. God has given us this great champion and defender, and we have to implore his aid and reach out to him and ask him for his assistance in daily life, and he will grant it. So with all of that, we're going to dive into the prayer with the Latin learning guide, which will be made available on my Patreon page, not just to Patreon members, but to everybody. So you can find the link in the description below. Let's get started. So as you can see here, I've got 4 different columns. The first one being the English translation as we know it, the second column being the Latin translation. Then we have the complicated Latin words that are in bold, and the direct translation to English with the bold words. We're going to start by just reviewing the English translation, reviewing the Latin translation and its pronunciation, and then we'll dive into this word by word, line by line translation to the direct English and how to remember it. So in English, of course, we have Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil, sometimes the malice and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who wander throughout the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In Latin, it goes as such: Sancte Michael Archangele, defende nos in proelio, contra nequitiam et insidias diaboli esto praesidium, imperet illi Deus, supplice deprecaamur, tuque princeps militiae celestis, Satanam aliosque spiritus malignos, qui ad perditionem animarum prevagantur in mundo, divina virtute in infernum detrude. You can go back to previous episodes that I've done where I have just recorded this intro bit and review it over and over again. But we're going to continue moving on. So let's take the first line. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. In Latin, it goes Sancte Michael Archangele, defende nos in proelio. So here's the explanation. Sancta, of course, means saint. It's related to the word sanctus, which means holy, which we get the words sanctify or sanctuary from. Michael is how you would say it in Latin, but it's Michael, and it's spelled exactly the same way. Archangele, of course, means archangel, and it's derived from the word archi, which means chief, and angelus, which means messenger. So it really means chief angel. Then we have the word defende, which sounds like our English word defend, meaning to protect against an attack. Nos means us. It's a simple, direct pronoun. In is the same as in English, in. Proelio is this complicated word that we have here, which is the word for battle, and it's related to the word proelium, which means combat in war. There is no direct English derivative, but conceptually, we could link it to the word prowess, proelio, prowess, which is bravery in battle, and at least that's how I remember it. Moving on to line number 2. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares, or malice and snares of the devil. In Latin, we say contra nequitiam et insidias diaboli esto praesidium. Contra means against. It's the same root in English as the word contrary or to contradict. Nequitiam means malice, and it's related to nequitiam meaning wickedness or evil intent. Et means and. Insidias, you can think of insidious, which means sneaky or deceptive, just like a trap, which is how we arrive at the word snares. Diaboli, literally translated, means devil. It's from diabolus, which also gives us the word diabolical. That's where we get that word from. So when you think of diaboli, think of diabolical or the devil. Esto is a command form of esse, which means to be. Then we have the word praesidium, which means protection. And it's related to presidium, a term for military outpost or guard post, which is how we get this understanding of protection. So it's very militant. If you look at this, the words convey a lot more militaristic terms. This is warfare. There's warfare and militaristic terms built into this language, which doesn't always translate over perfectly in the English. So it's fascinating to me, which is why I love learning the Latin, because it really brings to the surface the deeper meaning behind some of these words, which we don't get typically in the English translation. The third line, may God rebuke him, we humbly pray. In Latin, we would say, imperet illi Deus, supplices depreciamur. Imperet means may rebuke. It's from the word in Latin imperare, or to command, and it's related to the imperative or the imperial. It's this first command, if you will. Illi means him. It's the dative form indicating the object of the rebuke. We're basically saying to God, we ask you to command rebuke him, right? And him being the devil. Rebuke him. Who is the subject? God, of course, which is why we have Deus. Then we have supplices, which means humbly, and it's related to supplication, which is a humble request. So it's related to the word supplication, which of course is a humble request. So when we hear the word supplices, think of supplication. Depreciamur means to pray. It's related to the word deprecate, which sometimes can mean to express disapproval, or its original meaning, which is to entreat for mercy. Depreciamur, so that means to pray. The fourth line in English is, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host. So now we're talking to Saint Michael. And in Latin, that goes, tuque princeps militiae celestis. So tuque means, and do thou. It's a poetic emphasis of the word tu, which means you. Princeps means prince. It's related to the word principal, meaning the leader or the chief. Militiae, of course, think of the word militia or military, which means army. And then, of course, celestis, which means heavenly, from the word celum, which is heaven, which is where we also get the English word celestial from. Simple line there. Now, these last two lines, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who wander throughout the world seeking the ruin of souls. The Latin, you'll remember, the order of the words doesn't matter. So it starts to break down in this direct translation word for word. But we're going to try to do it anyway. So the first word we have is Satanam, which of course means Satan. Aliosque, which should make you think of altogether, which is all. And then Spiritus Malignos. So Spiritus, of course, means spirit. And Malignos, you can think of malady, which means evil. Qui ad perditionem. Qui is who, ad is to, and perditionem is perdition. Think of the word perdition, it's the ruin of something. So perditionem animarum. Animarum, you can think of anima, which means the soul, the thing that animates the body. So animarum is of the souls. Pervagantur is to wander. and then in mundo is in the world. Let's go back to the word purvagantur. How do you remember this? Purvagantur means wander, and it's from the word vagari, which gives us vagrant or wanderer. So purvagantur is who wanders. And then, of course, the last line, which is divina virtute in infernum detrude, we're actually going back to the beginning of the English part where we ask God to thrust him into hell. And so it's sort of backwards here. Divina, of course, means divine, which is related to the word divinity, meaning of God. Virtute means power, and it's related to virtue, but it originally meant strength or excellence. So your virtues are your strengths or your excellences. In is straightforward translation. In infernum, you can think of the infernal, meaning hellish place. So infernum is hell. Detrude is to thrust. From the word detrude, to push down or to cast away. And then, of course, amen, which means in both languages, English and in Latin, so be it. So when we take this final line together, what we're saying is divine power in hell thrust, right? By the divine power into hell, thrust. We put this all together, that Satanam aleosque spiritus malignos, Satan and all the evil spirits, qui ad perditionem animarum pervagantur in mundo, who to the ruin of souls wander in the world, divina virtute, by your divine power, in infernum detrude, into hell, thrust them. And so this, we look at this, it's an incredible militaristic and almost warfare-like prayer. This is a command. This isn't just some simple rhyming, poetic prose type of prayer. No. We are looking at the order of created things, the order of grace and the order of nature here. And we're looking at Saint Michael, and we are imploring him by his role appointed by God to do this great work and to lead these angel armies in the combat of evil spirits and to utterly obliterate them, destroy them, humiliate them. All of the language points towards that, and we don't always get that heavy meaning when we say the English, which is why I'm a fan of doing exactly what we're doing right now, is learning the Latin, not only exactly what it says, but what it means and the connotation behind all of these impressive words. And there you have it, folks. The Latin Learning Guide. I know lots of you have been emailing me, asking me to get this out. Finally, the Latin Learning Guide for the Saint Michael the Archangel prayer. Print this off, use it to teach your children, share it with your friends. The link is in the description. It'll take you over to my Patreon page, which while you're there, I know we have a lot of free members. If you are getting value as a free member, I would strongly encourage some of you, if you are capable or able to, check out what else we're doing on the Patreon page. I have more coming, and we're going to be revamping tiers, but consider joining at the lowest paying tier to support the work that we're doing here. If you want to contribute to me being able to bring you more podcasts on a more regular basis and more exclusive podcasts, consider joining at the lowest tier. I would not be able to do any of this work if it wasn't for you great people who are supporting me financially on a month-to-month basis. As is my custom, I would like to finish today's episode by praying for all of our Patreon members, for their family members, and for their intentions. So I would ask all of you who are listening now to please practice your Latin and join me in praying for all of them. Let us begin. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in celi, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimite nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimitimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventri tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Well, thank you once again for joining me for another episode. Chapter 5 of The World's First Love is going to be dropping to the paid Patreon listeners this month. I've already begun recording it. If you like what we're doing here, drop me a comment below and like it and share it with your friends and family. If you want to check out more episodes like this, feel free to look at these ones over here. And until our next episode, may God love all of you and Our Lady keep you.